Welcome to Concerned Citizens Presents. Concerned Citizens of Laguna Woods is an organization dedicated to peace, economic and social justice, good government, and a clean environment. Every month, we invite an expert to enlighten us on a topic related to our mission. Because Village TV videotapes these presentations, we can share that expertise with a larger audience. We hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
The one closest to me is Lourdes Oseguera. She is the manager or the boss of Laguna Woods Social Services. She previously has worked in gerontology and in what we call medical social work. So she has an extensive background in the kinds of problems that we have. She holds an MSW and a BA from Cal State Long Beach. So I guess I would assume she is local. And I have found working with her really great. She is extremely responsible and extremely responsive. So I think that if you were to consult her, you would be very, very pleased that she would take you very seriously and she would act immediately. And then there's her colleague, Sharon Suboy. She's of Japanese background, Japanese American. And she has also experience in working in gerontology and also in Orange County. And previously, she has worked in the private sector. So, which I think is it's always good. You know, people who have midlife crises and go into a new profession, they often bring a lot more enthusiasm to that new profession than the people that have been there all along. Right, so I have great confidence in Sharon. Not to say that Lourdes, who has not tried to have a midlife crisis, but she hasn't gotten there yet. We're going to give her another 10 years in social work. But as a former social worker, I will tell you, it is high burnout. It is a stressful job, as you all might imagine. Anyway, these lovely ladies will talk about the services they render, including a bit about their relationship to the foundation, which is important from a financial standpoint. And then we are going to have your questions. So help me welcome them.
So thank you all for allowing us to join you here today. My name is Lourdes Oseguera. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the manager for the Social Services Department of Laguna Woods Village. I have been an employee of the village for about 4 years.
And my name is Sharon Savoy. I am also a social worker, master social worker, working towards my licensure. I actually started as a partnership through Council of Aging. We'll kind of go into a little bit more detail what that entails. But I've been here at the village for about 3 years now.
So like Suzanne mentioned, we are here to share information on the services that we provide and go over a few different options for short and long-term care planning. But before we get started, can I please get a raise of hands if you were already familiar or already aware that there was a social services department in the village? Oh, fantastic. There's quite a few hands. We do find when we go out to speak at different events that there are a lot of residents sometimes that might not be familiar with us. So we do appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak and spread the word. And even if you yourself are not in need of services, feel free to share our information with friends, neighbors that might benefit. So the Social Services Department of Laguna Woods Village has actually been around since 1972, and our mission is to help village residents maintain their independence and enhance their quality of life. There is a lot that our team does that encompasses this mission. We currently have 4 social workers on staff. They are Sharon Suboy, Bahar Amini, Francis Roberts, and myself, and we're all either licensed clinical social workers or associate clinical social workers working towards licensure. We also have an administrative supervisor, Jean Chestnut, and an administrative specialist, Kathy Viafana. Kathy and Jean have a ton of information and knowledge on different resources in the community. They can answer a lot of questions, and they take all pertinent information needed for a social worker to follow up and discuss further with the resident. In addition to VMS staff, we do have a partnership with Council on Aging Southern California, and over the years, this has grown to allow us to have between 1 to 2 social workers who are employed by Council on Aging, but work within our department alongside our team to provide direct services to residents. There has also been a longstanding partnership with the local Masters of Social Work programs, so those include Cal State Long Beach, Fullerton, Dominguez Hills, and USC. And we do host interns under the supervision of a licensed clinical social worker to provide services to residents. This is a quick overview of our statistics for 2024. So in 2024, we opened a total of 612 new cases. Now this figure does not include ongoing cases, so people that we have already been working with. We had about 1,407 home and office visits that our social workers met with someone for, and over 11,200 phone calls and walk-ins. So our services are available at no additional cost, and they are confidential. Sometimes someone might be a little bit hesitant to reach out to our department because they worry that they're dealing with maybe a sensitive topic like a financial concern, or maybe they're coping with difficult feelings surrounding being a caregiver, and they're concerned about whether their information might be shared. It is confidential. What you speak with your social worker about stays between you two. Now, there are some exceptions. By law, we are mandated reporters. And what that means is that if we ever receive information, for example, information about elder abuse, so that might be physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, threats of harm to self or somebody else, we must report those. And the purpose of those reports is to link that person to additional services and hopefully address whatever safety concern has prompted that report. And we do offer both office visits and home visits. So we will meet people wherever they feel most comfortable and wherever is more convenient. This is a quick overview of our services. This is information that's found on our brochure. We will go a little bit more in depth into each of these, but to give a quick overview, we offer comprehensive assessments to link people to different resources and referrals. Throughout the year, we put together a variety of classes, groups, seminars on topics that we think residents might be interested in. We offer short-term counseling services and can help address concerns related to social isolation and cognitive health. So people or residents are connected to our department in a variety of different ways. This might be a self-referral where the individual that is seeking services is reaching out directly. The great thing about this community is that people look out for each other, and we do often receive referrals from friends, neighbors, fellow club members, other VMS departments, fellow agencies, so that might be the Orange County Sheriff's Department, a doctor's office, local hospitals, and we work very closely with the security department here in the village. So we will often follow up after a resident has had, for example, a fall, if they're found wandering, if there's reports of confusion or a fire, to help link them to different services. Now, while we always hope that residents will be open to meeting with us, we do want to put the disclaimer out there that we are not a mandated service. So people do have the right to decline. And if that happens, we do our best to share our information with that individual and encourage them to reach out should they change their mind and want to have a further discussion. So some of the reasons that someone might reach out to our department include someone grieving a loss. They might be caring for a relative. They might be dealing with a life-changing diagnosis. Perhaps they're planning for the future. They're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, or making arrangements for long-term planning.
Dive into more of the details about each of the services that we provide. So for the assessment, resources, and referrals, so a social worker will conduct a comprehensive assessment. Usually these assessments might take the first or even to the second visit. So we do use a biopsychosocial model where we ask a lot of questions to understand what your needs might be, what might be the unmet needs, and what your goals might be, and how we could partner together to achieve those goals. Some of the community programs that we could potentially connect you with is Adult Protective Services, like Lourdes mentioned. Perhaps you need assistance in finding the right caregiving agencies, so we could help provide you information with that. Perhaps maybe transportation services. Maybe you know the bus system but don't really know how to utilize that. We could definitely provide you information and tips of how to get from point A to point B, perhaps. We do have information regarding meal delivery services, mental health programs, dementia care programs within the community, as well as social engagement opportunities. We also offer educational workshop groups and other events. There were some flyers in the front as well, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that are coming up for 2025. One is the Senior Scan Stopper. So the topic is to protect yourself against home improvement scams. This is going to be on February 4th, so it is coming up on Tuesday from 10 to 11:30. It doesn't look like you need registration, so you're more than welcome to just show up. Another ongoing class is Exercise Your Brain. This is sponsored by the Cognitive Care Solution folks. This is a virtual meeting from 10 to 11, and you do need to register. So with more information, there's flyers available. We also have information available in our social services department. Another popular one is the High Cap Medicare Changes presentation. So that is scheduled for the fall in October. It's an informational presentation regarding how to navigate open enrollment. And soon following that is going to be the High Cap Medicare Clinic, and that's in November. It is recommended to register for that if you're interested to speak one-on-one with the High Cap counselor, but also walk-ins are welcome. If you need further information, it's available on the Laguna Woods website. Like I mentioned before, we have those flyers in the social services department, and it is also available in all the clubhouses. Another service that we offer is the counseling services. So this is actually a short-term counseling program. It is for about 6 to 8 weeks in total. We partner with the Optimal Aging Institute to create a therapy program specifically for the village residents. So the social worker like myself or Lourdes will facilitate that therapy session. It is a structured program, so you will receive a worksheet where you will work with the social worker as well, and also get psychoeducation on perhaps maybe depression or anxiety if you're experiencing that, and also have homework assignments. And it's in order to try to create these positive coping skills. So it's a great benefit to have. If you're interested, please contact our office for an assessment. We just want to make sure that the program is appropriate for you if you're interested, and vice versa as well. Other information we have is for social isolation. So due to health changes and social connections, some folks might be experiencing things like hearing losses or vision issues, memory losses, cognitive decline perhaps, disabilities, trouble getting around, maybe due to vision loss, you're not able to drive anymore, and it's difficult how to connect with folks. Maybe we could problem solve and explore what other options are available for you. And of course, loss of family and friends. So with the help of Social Services Department, we hope that you take advantage of the counseling services if you're interested, and maybe speak with the social worker. Maybe counseling services isn't fit for you, but you could also explore with the social worker what might be available in the community, whether it be revisiting things that maybe you haven't explored recently, we could problem solve for that, and also continue to build your support system, because that's very important as well. And I want to next highlight the partnerships that we have that's really crucial for our department, I believe. One is through the Council of Aging, like Lourdes mentioned before. So the partnership started in 2018 with the Council of Aging through what's called the Reconnect program over there. So that program started in 2011, and it was as a result of the Prop 63 Mental Health Service Act. So through this partnership since 2018, we were able to grow that program to have 1 or 2 social workers in-house here at the village be able to provide support to our residents. So we hope to continue with that collaboration and hope that expands as well to support our village residents. Okay, and the next big partnership is through the Foundation of Laguna Woods. Since 1997, the Foundation of Laguna Woods has partnered with our Department of Social Services to provide that temporary emergency financial assistance to qualifying residents. So how to tap into this benefit? You would first contact our social services department. You would meet with a social worker and go through what's called a financial assessment. So we ask for what your income is and what our outgoing expenses are. If there's other resources in the community that you haven't tapped into, we will also explore that too. So one example might be if you need assistance with utility bills. We will ask, for example, are you a part of the CARES discount program? And if not, we could help you try to apply for that and see if you can get a discount on your bill. So that's just one example. So the next step, once you qualify, we will go ahead and submit that to the foundation for consideration. The resident's information is anonymous to the foundation members, so your name, manor number is not disclosed, okay? And the process usually takes about a week or two for the foundation members to review and give us an answer. And if you're awarded, you'll be able to get that support. So some of the most common requests that we've had are things below. So the grocery and gas cards, perhaps it might be utility bills, like I mentioned with Edison. It might be medical bills that you might need assistance with, maybe cost of medications, maybe doctor's co-pays, maybe even a dental bill. So that's something that we might consider for submission. Another common one is the emergency response device, also known as the medical alert. So if your insurance does not cover for it, you might be able to get financial assistance for that as well. And then also hearing aids. Other programs that we could provide information is for cognitive health programs. So we provide direct services to residents and their caregivers who are experiencing memory loss. So a social worker can conduct a confidential memory screening during your home visit or office visit, but just keep in mind this is not a diagnostic evaluation. So our hopes is that once you complete the memory screening, that maybe you take that information to your primary doctor or your neurologist for further discussion or further testing. We also provide education on memory loss as well, so we definitely have a lot of flyers in terms of maybe practical tips that you might be able to incorporate on your daily basis. Community resources, we might be able to connect you with Alzheimer's Orange County. It's a great resource as well. Perhaps maybe caregiver support and planning for the future.
So questions about planning for the future are one of the most common reasons that we meet with village residents. And in those conversations, we really emphasize the importance of someone learning about what care options are available, ideally before you are to need them. Because nobody plans for something like a fall or a stroke, an accident to happen, and those events on their own can be very stressful and overwhelming. And if you are trying to figure out what care to put in place as you recover, that can add to that level of stress. So one of the ways that you can do this is by completing a medical directive. So a medical directive is also known as a power of attorney for health or an advance directive. There are also power of attorney forms for finances. And these are legal documents that allow you to name an agent to make medical or financial decisions for you should something occur where you are incapacitated and cannot make those decisions because of medical or physical or mental reasons. They also allow you to write down and express what your wishes are in terms of end of life, and also make wishes known in terms of organ donation. So if there is something that you do want or you don't want, you can jot down all that information on there. This also helps your loved ones. You know, if your spouse or your children or a close friend is put in a position where they're getting questions from a doctor about what to do next and you've never had that conversation, that can be very difficult to do. If you have not completed these documents, we do have blank forms available in our office. You don't need an attorney to complete these. You can have them notarized in order to become effective. City Hall of Laguna Woods does offer a free notary. You just need to schedule an appointment, or you can have them witnessed. And the only caveat there is that your agent, so whoever you designate as your agent, cannot witness the document, and at least one of the witnesses cannot be a family member. So depending on prognosis of that fall or stroke or accident, we would be having conversations about either short or long-term care. So short-term care is for individuals that need temporary assistance for as they recover from something like a surgery, an illness. So the goal is to provide those services, put those services in place so that that individual can return to baseline. So to give you an example of a situation that might fall in this category, we might have an individual who has had a fall and then broke their, let's say, hip or their leg. So they go to the hospital, they have the surgery, and they're told that it'll take about 4 to 6 weeks to recover. And they're expected to recover fully, be able to do all activities of daily living on their own. However, during that 4 to 6 weeks, they might need a little bit more support, such as physical therapy, maybe they need wound care. So you can get short-term care either in the home, so this would be through home health services or a caregiver, or you can go to a skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. Long-term care is for individuals that are experiencing maybe a chronic illness, a disability, maybe they've had just a physical decline due to aging and they need ongoing support. The goal here is to maintain their quality of life, manage those health concerns, and adapt to those different needs as they change. This is also available in various settings. You can have long-term care either in the home through a caregiver, for example, or at a higher level of care. So that would be an assisted living or a nursing home, for example. So let's go back to that example of that person that had a fall and broke their hip, and now they've had surgery and they need physical therapy to recover. They would probably be given 2 different options in terms of short-term care. One of them would be home health services. The second would be a skilled nursing facility. So this might be for someone who maybe isn't able to stand for long periods of time following the surgery. Maybe they're not able to walk more than a few feet. A skilled nursing facility provides skilled nursing and rehabilitation care. It is 24-hour support. So you would go and stay at the facility for, typically it's about 2 weeks or so. While you recover, you would have a semi-private room. Private rooms are available, but they are an out-of-pocket expense. So you would have your meals covered, you would have nursing care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology services, dietary counseling. They would manage all of your medications. So skilled nursing care is covered by Original Medicare, and there are a few qualifications that have to be met. So you have to have Medicare Part A, and you have to have days left in your benefit period. So Medicare Part A limits your skilled nursing days to 100 days per benefit period. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you would have 100 consecutive days covered at a skilled nursing. You also have to have a qualifying inpatient hospital stay, and that is 3 days at the hospital. And you have to enter the skilled nursing facility shortly after the hospitalization. So because it is transitional care, you would typically discharge from the hospital straight to the skilled nursing facility. And you have to have a medical necessity for skilled nursing. So that might be that you're receiving IV antibiotics or physical therapy. So this is an overview of what Medicare does cover in terms of days. So days 1 through 20 are typically covered fully by Medicare. Now, there might be situations where it is determined that you only need, let's say, 7 days to recover at a skilled nursing. So you might receive a discharge date before your 20 days. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you might have a copay for the first 20 days, so it's important to clarify that before you are to transition over to a skilled nursing facility. Days 21 to 100 have essentially a copay attached to them, and in 2025, that's increased by $1.50, so it's now $209.50 per day. Days 100 and beyond would be fully out of pocket. Now, this is an important note here. Your doctor or healthcare provider might recommend that you receive services that may not be covered by your insurance. or that you might have a copay for. So if this were to happen, it's really important to have a conversation with your treatment team to determine why they are recommending that service. And if you're going to move forward with it, have a good understanding of what your cost would be. Now, I know this can be a little bit complicated. Rest assured, if you went to the hospital following a fall and your treatment team is recommending that you go to a skilled nursing facility, you would be assigned a case manager. So that's usually a social worker or a nurse that would complete all of the discharge planning for you. So they would contact the skilled nursing facility, they would get the referral from the physician, and they would give you information as to whether you would have a copay or not. Now, home health services are also short-term care. So they provide pretty much all of the same services that you would get at a skilled nursing facility. The critical difference is that you are receiving them in your home, and it is limited. So typically, if you were to get home health services for physical therapy, maybe wound care, or let's say a bath aid to assist, you might only have visits for 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, for example. If you were having difficulty with walking during your recovery time and needed more help, you would likely have to hire, for example, a caregiver or have somebody assist you with that. So if you're ever in a situation where they're giving you options like skilled nursing or home health, and maybe you don't have support at home, or your spouse or children or whoever's involved in your care isn't able to provide that physical support, really consider going to a skilled nursing. I know it's not the most comfortable thing to not be in your home, but it can really help prevent things like falls, re-injury, and help you recover in a quicker amount of time. So home health services are also covered by Medicare Part A and B. They're typically fully covered. However, you do have to get prior authorization, and your treatment physician would put the order in for the services to start. If you are getting medical equipment through the home health agency, there might be a copay or a deductible that you have to pay. So what Medicare doesn't pay for? Unfortunately, Medicare does not pay for 24-hour care, or what we would think of when we think about caregiving services. So this might be things like home delivery, maybe meal prep, shopping, cleaning, personal care, so assistance with bathing, dressing, using the bathroom. That's not covered by Medicare. Sharon will go over a few different options for caregiving services if you were to decide or consider hiring a private caregiver or someone through a caregiver agency.
So one of the options that is available is hiring a caregiver through a caregiving agency. So through the caregiving agency, they could provide a variety of services. Some of are listed above, such as personal care, bathing, grooming, housekeeping, maybe bedletting changes is what you need assistance with, perhaps maybe washing the dishes. Meal preparation is something you could hire a caregiver to prepare. Transportation, maybe to your doctor's appointment for follow-up appointment, maybe to your physical therapy sessions, and also companionship. Now, paying for the caregiver services. So this is going to be for this local area. It's between $35 and $45 an hour. Most caregiving agencies do have that minimum of 4 hours per day. So when you add that up, it's about $140 to $180 per day. There are some caregiving agencies, if you need less hours, you can hire them less than 4 hours, but the rates tend to be a little bit higher if you were to hire them less than 4 hours. Of course, if you increase those hours, it tends to be a little bit less as well. Another option might be if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, some plans do have respite care services or return in a home benefits embedded. So one example is through Scan Health Plan. They do have a benefit called respite care. So if you're a member of Scan and you have an unpaid caregiver that's taking care of you, you could tap into this benefit with an approval through your doctor's office and through your insurance. So it's up to 40 hours per benefit year, and you can use that in an increment of 4 hours. Okay, and it's designed to give your caregiver a break to be able to handle other matters. Another option might be, and this is specifically an example through SCAN, is called returning to home benefit. So this also needs a referral through your doctor's office, but it's to help to bridge that gap. If your home health aid agency isn't sufficient enough, your Medicare Advantage plan might be able to provide you that additional support. So for returning to home, if approved, you have up to 60 hours per benefit year that you could hire a caregiver through the insurance company to get that additional support, like the personal care, the home care, and so forth. Another option is long-term insurance. So if you have a policy, if it's a private insurance, you definitely want to know the specifics of what that insurance entails and what your coverage is. And then also how to tap into that benefit. What is that claim process? What documents might you need in order to tap into that benefit as soon as possible? It's really important that if you don't know the specifics, to have that opportunity to revisit that. Okay. And for folks that are low-income individuals, there also is, if you are approved for Medi-Cal, it is a Medicaid program through the state of California. It does have income limits. So for 2024, the income limit for a single person filing is $1,732. If you file as a couple, it's $2,351. So if a month, per month, yes. So if you're approved for Medi-Cal, there is a benefit called in-home supported services, also known as IHSS. Okay? If you're approved for IHSS, you will be able to get caregiving at home. Some of the services that you could get awarded is for household heavy cleaning services, meal prep, perhaps laundry services if you need assistance with that. Personal care services such as feeding, bathing, bladder care, dressing, and so forth. And also assistance with transportation. So that is through IHSS. So if you are applying for IHSS, you could also apply for this new program called CalAIM. So this program was designed to kind of fill the gap. A lot of the process to get an IHS provider was a little bit difficult for folks. So this program was implemented. So once you apply for IHSS, you could also apply for CalAIM and possibly get awarded additional hours to get support at home. Okay. If you need help with the application process, that's something that social services could assist with. We could also do the follow-up and kind of help you navigate that system. Okay. And then also, and CalAIM also provides respite care services as well. Another good resource is the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County. So this organization provides services to family caregivers. And through the Caregiving Resource Center, they do have a respite grant available. So if you're interested, you can contact the Caregiver Resource Center directly for an assessment. And if you're approved, they will award you a certain amount of hours through their caregiving agencies for that caregiver to get that break. So that's what it's designed to do. If you're interested, the information's below. Definitely reach out to them.
If you have made the decision to hire a caregiver, there are a couple of different options or pathways that you can take. So one of them is to hire through a home care organization, and this is an agency that's licensed, bonded, and insured. They do all of the background checks for their caregivers. When you contact the agency, you let them know what your needs are, the hours that you're looking for. Maybe you have specific dates and times that you need that caregiver for, and the agency would arrange them. The cost that Sharon talked about earlier, the $35 to $45 an hour, is through a home care organization or an agency. We do have a full list of all the agencies that are licensed within Orange County. If you go on Google and search up home care agencies, or you look at the list that we have, it is quite extensive, and that can be overwhelming. If you come into our office, we do have a wall of brochures for different agencies, and we can help narrow down the options for you. While we don't necessarily recommend any specific agency, we can give you maybe a handful of agencies or contacts that we have heard good feedback about. Another option is to hire a private or an independent caregiver. Now, private or independent caregivers are individuals that are hired directly by the person that is needing the services or their family. Now, this can be more cost-effective than going through an agency. Something to keep in mind is that you do have a little bit more risk involved. You don't know if that person has insurance. If it's great to always ask for a background check or references if you're able. And keep in mind that Laguna Woods Village does have a private caregiver policy in place. So anybody that has a private caregiver must submit an application to resident services in order to get approval for that caregiver. So if they were approved, they would get a badge that would allow them to come in and out of the community. That application process requires caregivers to register through the state of California as a home care aide. And what's great about that is that that application requires that they undergo a background check. So that might give you a little bit more reassurance that that background check has been completed. So if you are considering hiring a caregiver, these are some of the things that they might be able to help you with. So if you are needing assistance with bathing, grooming, dressing, maybe doing your laundry, changing your linens, if you need assistance with transportation services, or maybe you need standby assist while you get up from bed or up from a chair, they are a service that could be a benefit for you. And some of the questions that you can ask when you are interviewing a caregiver include, what does the agency or the private caregiver charge per hour? Do they have a minimum daily requirement? Do they have a weekly requirement? Are they able to work the hours that you are requesting? If they were to be sick and not be available for the day that they are scheduled, what does that process look like? If it's the agency, are they able to fill that shift for you? If it's a private individual, do you have a backup option? And how can you reach the caregiver or the agency on weekends if you needed to speak with them? And you want to ask yourself, are you comfortable with this individual? Trust your guts. If it doesn't feel right, you can always interview other people. Do they understand your expectations and what you're looking for? And can you afford their hourly or daily rates? Now, when it comes to higher level of care options, there are different tiers available. So let's say somebody has a decline in health, and maybe it's getting a little bit harder to live independently, and they're considering transitioning to a higher level of care. Some of the options available are independent living communities. Now, independent living is primarily focused on meeting the social needs of someone, so they might have more activities, events, they're not providing a lot of care. Assisted living is a step up. So in assisted living, you would be receiving assistance that a caregiver would provide to you. So that would be help with bathing, maybe medications, toileting, grooming, things like that. Memory care is also an option that's available. So memory care are typically locked facilities, and they have a specialized care team that provides care to individuals that might have a dementia diagnosis, that have cognitive decline. And a lot of the facilities do have a tiered steps that you can go into. So let's say somebody has just been diagnosed with cognitive impairment, and they have some memory loss. Maybe they also have some physical issues that are making it harder to do the day-to-day on their own. And they think that in the future they might be interested in memory care. It might be a good consideration to look at facilities that offer both assisted living and then have a transition to a memory care unit or floor within the same facility. Board and cares are also an option. So board and cares are residential homes where a small number of people live. It's typically about 4 to 6 individuals where you have a caregiver meeting all of the basic needs of the person. So the cost for higher level of care facilities has a pretty big range. Locally, at the lowest end, we're probably looking at about $3,000, and it goes up to about $10,000 depending on the different needs, the facility location, and amenities. So some independent living or board and care are probably going to be on the lower end of that spectrum. Memory care is going to be on the higher end. If you are looking to find a long-term care facility, an assisted living board and care, you can take a few different pathways. So it can be difficult to make that selection. There's a lot of options available. It's hard to find concrete information out there. One of the things that you can do is connect with a placement specialist. So placement specialists are individuals that are very knowledgeable on all the local higher level of care options. This is a free service that's available. They work almost on almost like a finder's fee system, where if they're able to successfully match someone to a facility, the facility gives them like a finder's fee. But they can take into account your budget, location that you're looking at, the type of facility, the size, amenities that you're looking for, and give you a list of options that meet those needs. In our office, we also have a copy of the new Lifestyles magazine. This is a magazine that has information on all of the different facilities in Orange County. So if you are touring assisted living facilities, independent living facilities, or board and cares, these are some questions that you can ask. We do recommend that you tour multiple facilities and that you tour a combination of larger facilities and smaller facilities. You want to get a good idea of what your preferences are. So you might go into it thinking, you know what, I don't want to go to a board and care, I don't want to do a residential care home, but you might find that when you tour it, you really like it and you've changed your mind. So you want to have the options. And it's important to ask things like, what is the ratio of staff to residents? Take a look around. Is the place clean? Do the residents, are they engaging in different activities? Are they well groomed? What are the recreation activities that are going on, events that are available? And ask whether there is an additional cost if you were to need additional assistance. So let's say you don't need it now, but in the future you need help with bathing or house cleaning. Maybe you need medication reminders. Is there an additional cost on top of what they are quoting you when you are at your current baseline? Because that can change. And the Office on Aging Ombudsman Services Office does provide a history of deficiencies that any facility has had. So if you do have questions about that, this is the phone number that you can contact. So I want to go back to our partnership with the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village. We are very grateful to be able to have this partnership. The foundation does a fantastic job at fundraising. They're a charitable organization for village residents. And in addition to some of the assistance that Sharon talked about earlier, they can also help with covering short-term caregiving services or respite services. It is the same process that Sharon described. You would meet with a social worker, complete an assessment. We would then contact an agency. The foundation does not pay private caregivers. It has to be through an agency. And then once we had all the invoicing, the quotes, we would submit that to the foundation. The foundation would review it. If approved, that payment goes directly to the agency, and then you can start those services. And I did want to touch on the foundation's planning for the Inevitable series. So they have put together a series that's now available on YouTube, and it talks about different plans or different things that you can do to plan for a potential incapacity and end of life. So we do have a flyer on the desk or the table at the back there that has a YouTube link. It's also here on that PowerPoint. We really encourage everybody to watch that. If you're interested in meeting with a social worker, or if you would like to refer somebody that you know, you can reach us at 949-597-4267. We are located on the first floor of the community center building. You can walk into our office as well. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m., and we take calls until 5. And that is our presentation. If anybody has any questions.
Let me just say, all of that sounds really good, but it costs a fortune. It costs somewhere between $120,000 a year if you're in like the Wellington, and that's minimal care, all the way to half a million per year if you want skilled care. And that means that the spouse, who's taking care of the other spouse, can be left impoverished. Because you've got to pay for all of that.
I actually have 2 quickies. One is this CalAIM that works in conjunction with the in-home social services. That's something new?
Yes, it's a new program through CalOptima. So it is a program available for individuals that have Medi-Cal services.
So they will extend the hours to someone who's on IHSS?
Yes, well, kind of. They can fill in the gap. So if somebody is having a hard time finding a provider, which it is very difficult at this time, there is a shortage, then CalAIM can fill those hours, or they might award additional hours on top of the IHSS hours.
I have a question related to if someone's having a financial problem. You mentioned that the foundation can help with gas bills or utilities or food cards or whatever. What happens if, say, someone loses a spouse and so they lose a stream of income and they can no longer afford their rent? Is there anything that can be done?
Okay, so the question is, if somebody were to lose their spouse and they lose that source of income, whether the foundation would possibly help cover rent. And the foundation does not help with rent payments. They also do not help with HOA dues. However, there are some options available through other nonprofit agencies that we will work to connect people with. So for example, Share Ourselves, they are an agency in Costa Mesa, does provide rental assistance. It's a one-time program per year, I should say. They can help with up to $600 in rent. So we might apply for foundation assistance for somebody's maybe past due electricity bill, maybe a grocery card and a gas card, and maybe they had a dental expense that they're feeling overwhelmed by. So we would submit that through the foundation and then help them apply for Share Ourselves for the rental assistance. Thank you.
You have these services available for people who own around condos and who live here. But what about renters? Are they treated the same?
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, so great question. So the question is whether our services are available to both owners and renters, and the answer is yes. We do provide services to anybody who is listed as an occupant within a unit in the village. Thank you.
I'm wondering, since all of our departments are under the stress of keeping their budgets low, just as a kind of pie-in-the-sky question, if you could have a better budget for the social services department, what services would you provide that you are not currently providing?
So the question is, if we had a larger budget, what services might we provide? We are a small staff, so if we did have the opportunity to have more staff, that would be fantastic, to be able to meet with more individuals, provide additional assistance. That's our previous manager, Susan McInerney, actually cultivated a lot of different partnerships with community agencies like Council on Aging, which is still ongoing. So what's great about that program is that it allows us to have another staff member on our team without it being on our budget. So they're employed by Council on Aging, but provide all of the same services that we provide.
I
got one more. What is the current status of long-term care insurance? Because a handful of years ago, at another lecture, it seemed like a lot of insurance policies were dumping long-term care, and then now it's very expensive, whereas maybe 10 years ago it wasn't. So people who want to get into that now, what does that look like?
Great question. So the question is what the status is on long-term care insurance. So most of the people that currently have it and are tapping into long-term care insurance have had it for many years. It is very difficult, mostly because of finances, and there are very limited policies available now. So if somebody doesn't have a long-term care insurance, it's pretty difficult to get into one now.
You know, any insurance companies that are doing them, or they all dump them?
Oh, there are still people that have them that are paying into long-term care. Sometimes there are changes to policies that occur, and a lot of the home care agencies are actually very familiar with the process of activating those policies because they are insurance agencies at the end of the day, and sometimes it can be very difficult to access the services that you're paying for. So there are representatives at different agencies that we can provide referrals to that can help you navigate that process and make sure that you get the services that you're entitled to. Yes.
I have a neighbor I'm concerned about with her memory, and another neighbor, we're all good friends. We're concerned because we don't think she's eating right, and sometimes she'll repeat things over and over like in 5 minutes. So I'm supposed to call you and tell you about it? Or?
Yes. We can talk about this after the presentation, and we can take a referral. When we do receive referrals from individuals outside of the person that would be receiving services, we always will follow up and introduce ourselves, let people know what we do, and offer services. I mentioned a little earlier, people do have the right to decline. That's within their rights. However, I talked about mandated reporter duties as well. So if we become aware or we see any type of self-neglect situation, for example, maybe somebody has a wound that they're not taking care of and they don't want to go to the hospital, but they really need to, then we might, in addition to reporting to Adult Protective Services, then we might request for a welfare check even if they decline to work with us at that point. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for a great presentation. I'm wondering, what do you suggest we would bring with us for an appointment with you? Like, would you want to see documents and insurance and Social Security?
That's a wonderful question. So the initial process to meet with a social worker is to contact our office, and you essentially give us a brief overview of the services that you're looking for. And then depending on the reason that we are meeting, so let's say it's a financial assessment, we do go over income, expenses. If we're applying for certain programs like Medi-Cal, IHSS, maybe utility assistance, there are certain documents that are required that we submit with those applications. So your social worker would let you know ahead of time what documents to bring depending on what the individual situation is.
There's a question here.
Yes.
Yes, I wonder if perhaps you could give us some information on how the assisted living waiver program works.
Sure. So the Assisted Living Waiver Program is another program available for individuals that have CalOptima or Medi-Cal. And the goal there is to help people who are low income be able to transition to a higher level of care, like an assisted living or a nursing home. My understanding is that for new applicants interested in applying at this time, there is a freeze. So there is a wait list going on. It's about 4 years out or so. If somebody, however, if we do work very closely with Adult Protective Services, just on a regular basis, and if somebody is connected to Adult Protective Services, they can help with formulating a letter to help move someone up on that list.
Am I understanding what you're saying? Say, you know, when you're talking about long-term care, short-term care, that's not a big issue. You know, getting over a hip, I shouldn't say it's not a big issue, it is a big issue. I'm talking about stroke. where you've got serious stroke, and you're really going to decline for many, many years. You may not fully recover, and that's fairly common. And you need 24-hour care, you know. This is where the big gaps are in our protection. It's great you have, I saw one point where you said, oh, you get 60 hours a year. You know, we're talking 24 hours. You can't expect a spouse to do it. So then you go into assisted living, and you go through all your savings. You know, so you essentially, and your spouse really has very little left, because the state essentially requires that you are essentially impoverished before you get on Medi-Cal. Is that correct?
Yes, so the income limits are very low, and it is a big gap. I agree with you there.
It's a life and death gap.
It is.
You know, it's not just a big gap. It's life and death.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is another program for people that apply for Medi-Cal. So when you're applying for Medi-Cal, anyone that's 65 or older can be approved for Medi-Cal services. However, yeah. Well, the first step would be to apply for Medi-Cal. So when you apply for Medi-Cal, that's all income-based. They've taken away the asset limit, so they're no longer looking at, savings, for example. That used to be only $2,000. They've done away with that. They're only looking at income. If somebody is over the income limit for an individual, we saw that it's about $1,700 and something. That's very low. Let's say we're working with a couple and they're over the income limit by maybe $1,000 or so. There is another program called Spousal Impoverishment Medi-Cal application. So that is for someone who has a copay through Medi-Cal. However, they have a spouse that needs the skilled nursing care or maybe a higher level of care. This program, if someone is approved, would allow the well spouse or the spouse that's remaining in the home to keep a portion of the spouse that's in a facility, for example, some of that income to help sustain daily living.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, and well, I get I hope you put your stuff in the Globe, right? When you're going to have these classes?
Yes.
I thought, maybe this is in another state, that when you have a situation where one spouse has a serious medical decline, that the state will divide the income or the assets of the two people, and that the healthy spouse's assets half will be protected from being used up totally in the care of the other spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true in California?
No, the only exception that I've seen is that spousal impoverishment Medi-Cal application.
Yeah, it's divorce. You have to divorce your spouse. Which I would do.
You had a sheet here for people who live alone, and I and many others do. And you suggested that you close your blinds or something every day so a neighbor might know you're okay. Actually, there's a much simpler and more effective way to do that a lot of people are not aware of. You can put an app on your phone. It is free, and it's called Snug, S-N-U-G. And you pick a time of the day. I pick 9:30, and every day before 9:30, I press the button which lets the two contacts that I've listed know that I'm okay. And if I don't respond to that, they will send somebody in an emergency.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. We were actually just talking about this before we came in. And that's something that I think we do need to add to that top 10 things. It is a great service. That one is free. There are a few other options that are paid services, but
They will send an emergency person.
yeah.
But this is just to notify your contacts that you haven't checked in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the last question.
You have the last question, and I don't know if any other people have this question, but I don't know what adult protective services are.
Okay.
Could you tell us?
Yeah, thank you. Adult Protective Services is an agency in Orange County that investigates any reports of elder abuse. So that they have social workers that will follow up after a report has been made. So let's say somebody scams, for example. Scams are very common, very prevalent right now. If somebody that is 60 or older has fallen for a scam, that falls under the category of financial abuse. And Adult Protective Services would follow up, just check in, complete an assessment, offer resources to hopefully prevent that from happening again.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.